Howdy, everybody. So, Monday Matters for January 22nd, 2024 is that consistency matters. And this can be taken in so many different ways, but it always comes back to consistency matters. And so, you can think about your routine and being consistent in the things that you do on a daily basis. It's going to build success because it's going to build rhythm if you're doing things that are positive in nature and that kind of thing. It's also a consistency piece of, like, if you're a baker or you're baking things, especially if you're baking things to sell to somebody, consistency matters, because if you make something that's really good and people go crazy for it and they start referring people to you, and then the next time you make it, you aren't as consistent with the recipe and it turns out to be not so great, guess what? People are going to say, hey, that wasn't so great. That wasn't as good as what people thought it was going to be. Or those people told me it was going to be, right? So consistency matters, but consistency of your effort is really the most important piece. Because if you're trying to get consistent results, that's going to fluctuate. That's one of the things that, as a distance runner, as a distance athlete, as a coach, I make sure that I tell my athletes, and anybody I'm working with, whether I'm coaching them for an athlete or coaching them for life purposes, is that there are things that come in the way externally that you can't control. If you're a distance runner, you can't control the weather. You can't control the wind. You can't control the temperature, right? You can't control those things. What you can control is your effort that you put into whatever you're doing that day, whatever your training is for that day. So your times may be off, but your effort needs to be there. If you're a baker, your effort needs to be there to follow the recipe and not be distracted, and, like, to put things out of the way so that you're, like, focused on what you're doing, right? Same thing with your morning routine. You may not always feel great after your morning routine. You put the routine together, hopefully in a manner that's going to make you feel good, and it's going to make you feel ready for the day, right? And get your mindset correct for what you have to do that day. But we all know things happen. Sometimes 5 minutes after our morning routine, something happens that throws us off, right? It's a matter of, like, understanding your effort and what you can control and having consistency in your effort. And that's one of the things I often tell my athletes, especially when they have a performance, whether it's in a workout or in a race, that's not what they would want. Or if they're in a game and they can't seem to make a basket in a basketball game. I'm like, okay, but is your effort there? Don't slack, right? And you hear this a lot, especially from commentators. They'll tell you, just keep going to the hole, keep going to the basket, keep your defense up, keep going to the basket, and eventually it's going to start to click. And that's one of the things that we need to make sure that if our effort is consistent, that's why consistency matters. It's our effort into whatever we're looking at, whatever we are going for. If our effort is consistent, we will eventually turn the corner and get things going in the right direction, no matter what happens externally that tries to throw us off. Whether it's a spiritual thing, whether it's a physical thing, whether it's just, a relational thing, it doesn't matter what it is that can throw us off. We've all had those things happen. We all know they're there. We all know they could come at any moment. The phone could ring and completely change our trajectory for the day based on what somebody on the other side of the line says. And I said the other side of the line, like it's a landline. God, that's an old phrase, I guess. That's going to go it's going to go extinct. But whoever's on the other side of the conversation, they can change your trajectory in a heartbeat. But if your effort is consistent on what you're trying to accomplish, you will get to where you want to be, and you'll be able to do it with controlling the things that you can control and understanding that there's things that you can't control, and there just has to be boundaries for those things. And I can't let them change my effort towards what I want to achieve. It may take me longer. I may not get there as easily as I want to, and it may not be as smooth as I want it to be, but it will happen and it will get there if you consistently put your effort in that direction. So that's why consistency matters. So that's your Monday Matters for today.